Welcome to Podcasts Are Bulletproof. Today is March 20th, 2019. This podcast was recorded, I think, St. Patty's Day, March 17th. I turned 37 on March 18th, on Monday. I'm not exactly sure when we recorded this. I think Saturday night or something. But there you go. It gets pretty heated. I had to do some savage editing so that we didn't get too hateful. Thanks for listening, and send it. It's been a while.
Isn't it your birthday?
My birthday is March 18th.
Right, okay. I knew it was coming.
St. Patty's Day is coming up Sunday.
That's right. There was a huge... I got stopped in traffic today in downtown Phoenix, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I was like, babe, can you look it up? And she was, my wife is my co-pilot, and she looks it up, and she's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I think it was like Little John or Little Wayne and like Cardi B.
We're doing what?
We're doing some concert in the park. It's like
here in Phoenix?
Yeah, like $110 a ticket. And people were just like, I mean, you couldn't even get through, and there were people parking like miles away at like across the street from Xavier College Prep, and people were hawking parking spots, and I was just like, look at all of these people.
What was the occasion?
For a stupid concert for like Cardi B, like that song where she's like, have you heard that?
I'm so.
Oh, I hate. Oh, it's terrible. I wouldn't even know about it, but the people at my work, some of them are. It's like the radio friendly unit shifter, pop music. It's like comforting to them. It's like almost like they don't have to examine their conscience if they just put on this crappy music.
Right.
So like one of the guys there, he's got great taste in music, and it'll be like, it'll go from like System of a Down to like Primus, like Shake Hands with Beef, and like, all these crazy songs, and then like reggae, and then all of a sudden, one of my bosses will come in and he'll flip it to like 96.9, and it's just like, no. And then so they've been playing this Maroon 5 song. They play certain songs.
Oh my gosh.
Every hour. I mean, we've started to count like 14 times, 10 times. And there's this one song. He's like, "Girls like you, like me," and then he does this annoying thing where he goes, yeah. I need a girl like you. Like basically, when I come through, I need a girl like you. Someone to screw because I don't love you. And if you get pregnant,
no.
just get an abortion.
Oh shit!
And
it's getting crazy.
But I thought all lives matter. I'm confused. Yeah.
Shit.
So and then Cardi B comes on, and she's like, but everyone else is too gazy. And then gazy. She's like, she's like, you want a girl who's this and this and something, but everyone else is too gazy. And then she's like, it's her raps are so obnoxious. And then she's like, hardy, something, Bacardi. And I'm like, really? Like, that's okay. It's so annoying, and it's so stupid, and it's like putting your brain on autopilot. Like if you compare that to like a Beethoven symphony, and there's just like, you can see how far the West has fallen. And then I'm trying to...
You can't party to Beethoven, really. I mean, I guess you could in some kind of...
Well, I mean, yeah, your mind can party. I mean, but even that's the thing. Like, I get Led Zeppelin. I get Bob Marley. I even get Tupac or Biggie. Like, there's some musical skill there. There's actually, when someone uses their voice like a bass guitar, and even if you completely hate what they're saying, but you can't get the words out of your head because it's so catchy, and it's there's a certain level of skill there. And I'm not saying that, Maroon 5 or Cardi B don't have skill, but I think they're taking their abilities, and it's just like a big dump. It's like modern art. It's like someone crapped on a canvas, and they're like, this is how I felt when
those are like, those bands are like, they're like the media's dream team, as far as like, they're making money because they're tied in with the media. They're not making money selling albums. So their hit songs it's all part of the propaganda, I think.
I know it is. And a lot of them, they've even found out, even with more popular artists like Jay-Z and stuff, they set up deals where they have like so many 100,000 copies of their albums pre-sold. And then they sit on them, then they're trying to push them on people, and then they're blasting them on the radio.
They're going through artists
and
bands nowadays. Yeah. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Well,
it's so sad.
And
man.
when you've been in a good scene, like when I lived in Austin, Texas, I heard some bands there that were really good.
A lot of good musicians.
Dude, I mean,
there's still real guitar players.
Oh yeah.
out there.
Oh no, they've been playing for
and
like
I'm
20 years. Yeah, me too. And they've been doing it, and they're great. But you have to know where to go. And there's like maybe 50 or 100 people there, and then you turn on the radio, on the rock radio, and you'll hear all these classics before the internet, you know. But then like it'll be some band, and it's like the most retard rock that you've. And I guess you're not allowed to use that word anymore, but that's a whole nother thing.
No, not on podcasts. You still are, though. I think
you still
so.
Are?
That's why they're bulletproof still. I think. But,
well, it's funny because it's actually, I'm pretty sure it's more offensive to use the word moron than retard. But I've heard people be like, "How dare you say that? How dare you say retard? You're a moron." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" I'm pretty sure if you call someone a moron, that's like saying they're completely retard. Like they're worse. They're not just retarded, or they don't have a learning deficiency or a learning disability. They're like, you know, a waste of space, and they're just completely
an unviable human being,
right?
Like, oh,
well, and Jesus himself said, you know, he said something about, you know, you've heard it say that, you know, adulterers and murderers go to hell, but you know, people who call their brothers or other people fools or raka, or which is like a version of that kind of thing, are potentially guilty of hellfire themselves, because the damage that you can do by calling someone those kind of names, you know. But it's just funny because the same people who've argued with me about that, and they're like, "How dare you use the word retard?" They're the same people who are like, "Well, I mean, I got an ultrasound and they said my baby might be retarded, so I'm just going to kill it and get an abortion." And I'm like, "Well, if I find out that my unborn child, and I have one right now, has a mental illness, or even has, you know, microcephaly, whatever that disease is where they have like no brain, like I'm not going to kill my kid. Like I don't care how the kid comes out. He's my kid, and I'm going to love him no matter what. So don't get on me about using a word that you find offensive. Like I don't prescribe. Yeah. It's like, you don't believe in my religion. You don't believe in Christianity. So don't try to make me believe in your psychotic religion that's based on your emotions and, like, you know, the last 50 years of pop culture, because you're completely full of it. But we're getting on a tangent, but yeah. So I just, you know, I just thought, I bet you if you went through that crowd and you asked every single person, like, what rights are you entitled to under the Constitution? Do you think everyone should have the freedom of speech, the right to say something offensive? Well, I mean, if you're going to say something that, you know, messes people up, you know, I don't think that's cool. Well, guess what? That's how Cardi B affects me, you know? But I'm not going to try to shut down her.
Pull your pants down, open your butthole. And...
Yeah, see, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me that.
That is like demonic.
It is demonic. But then they'll sit there and they'll turn around and tell you, well, what you said is offensive. And it's like, dude, you've been offending the crap out of me. Like, everyone who hates Trump, like, newsflash, now you get to know what it feels like every day when conservatives had to wake up and listen to Obama and his endless sophistry, his endless changing of definitions, and his race hustling and race baiting and pitting people against each other and playing both sides against the middle. You know, it's the same. And then they get so offended, and it's just that's kind of what I've been stewing on recently, is this, you know, this in the state of the screwian. It's like there's just endless division. And then, you know, the people, according to the conspiracy theorists, the people in charge, you know, their motto is order out of chaos. I mean, they don't even deny that they're proud that they're in charge. I mean, they're kind of starting to come out about it, so it's not, I mean, how much of a conspiracy is it? But they're definitely creating chaos, and they're trying to create racial tension. They're trying to pit people against each other. It's like right when humanity's finally coming into like a new era where we could all actually, you know, raise ourselves to this new level, you finally see who's really been behind all the bullshit all along. It's like these people who have power. They're addicted to power like a drug. The same, you know, same way you can get addicted to alcohol or pot, or you know, sex or pornography or food, you know, or you know, a lack of responsibility and abandoning the children you create. Whatever your addiction is, these people are addicted to power, and they'll do anything to keep it. You know, like the Justin Trudeau scandal in Canada has just been beautiful. It's been so good.
Dude, I don't know anything about it.
Dude, I
know the name, but I don't know nothing about it.
Well, he's kind of like the Canadian version of Beto, you know, which, by the way, I don't always agree with Ben Shapiro on certain things, but he did a episode the other day on Beto O'Rourke, and I was just dying. I couldn't stop laughing. He imitates him.
Oh yeah.
And every time he talks about him, he plays "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and he's like, "It's Beto. I'm just skateboarding, and I'm just writing a song, and I'm for the people." And it was classic Ben Shapiro, and he just utterly destroyed him on a level that only the chosen people could do. I mean, it was beautiful. I couldn't stop laughing. And that's what Trudeau is. And Trudeau's like Mr. Intersectionality, dresses up like in different garbs of different cultures and dances around with him. He's great for a photo op. His dad is this famous, corrupt politician in Canada. And then it turns out that he's, Mr. Ethical Intersectionality. We just need to be tolerant, is now accused of groping some woman. And then the best part, the cherry on top, is that he not only did he, and Jordan Peterson just ripped him a new one because he's like, I don't like him, he's a weasel, which Jordan Peterson has, by the way, for anyone listening, has redeemed Canadians. I mean, I am so proud of my Canadian heritage.
I could see that
because of Jordan Peterson. Like he just
Absolutely.
tickles me to the bone, and I don't completely agree with him on everything, but I love that man for what he's doing, and I want to get into something about him too, because there's the whole, it'll tie in with the mosque attack and the dumb white supremacists who think that Western.
So here's a question: there's white supremacists living in New Zealand?
No, well, he went there specifically to do this attack, but the thing that's dumb about what you learn is that
makes no sense.
No, it does. It does, because what he's doing, this is what white supremacists believe. They believe that Western civilization is great because it's white. And what they're doing is they're making the same mistake that like the black Israelites make, or that the radical Muslims make. They assume that their race is the source of all the good things in their culture. And they're stupid, because it's their philosophy. It's the Western philosophy, the Judeo-Christian value system, is what makes the West special. It has nothing to do with the melanin levels in your skin. And the dumb thing is that if you believe in science, I mean, Arabs and Jews and most,
we all
Muslims,
love the same food.
They're all Caucasian.
Yep.
They're all, Arabs and Jews and Germans are literally all biologically Caucasian. There's only Caucasians, Asians, and Africans. Those are the three basic races according to science. And so all these people are like, in the media played into it. The media literally is like, they're promoting a racist narrative, and they're promoting racial thought to create division. And they should be utterly ashamed of themselves, because they're saying, well, it was a racist attack. It's like, Islam is not a race. Anyone can be Islamic. I mean, yeah, Islam has a bias towards being an Arab, because the real Quran is only in that language. But you can be a ginger, white as snow, and you can become a Muslim.
NBA basketball player.
So it's not a racial. It's not based. It's the famous Matt Damon. What's his name? Ben Affleck, the worst Batman ever. The most terrible Batman.
I disagree with you, Mark.
I haven't even watched it.
I think he's the best Batman.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's
shit.
great, dude. He's like a real man. He's tall, because Ben Affleck's tall.
Yeah.
And so he's not this little weasel Batman. He's like I don't know. It's just a good.
Well, it's more his personality that I hate, because it's like he was on Bill Maher and he goes, "That's racist." I think he went after Sam Harris, the atheist, who at least Sam Harris is a tolerable atheist, because at least he'll sit there and he'll actually go for rounds with you. He won't pull a Richard Dawkins and be like, anyone who believes in religion is obviously stupid. And it's like, well, your entire philosophy and your whole morality system is based in Judeo-Christian ethics, and you're just trying to get away from it. So you're the one who's stupid. But at least Sam Harris he'll argue the problem of evil, and he'll argue that you can be ethical without believing in God. And he does it better than most people. And then Ben Affleck on Bill Maher is like, "That's racist. How could you say that about Muslims?" And it's like, it's not a race, dude. It's a religion. It's a belief system. Christianity is not a race. Even the Jews. I could become a Jew. If I wanted to become a Jew tomorrow, and I really wanted to become a Jew, they wouldn't be like, uh-oh, you got a little bit of German blood in you, you can't be a Jew. Like, that's not how it works.
How does it work? So that's
well,
I,
well, and there's but that's the thing, is there are people who are racially biased in every culture. It's the same in every single culture. But this dumb thing about these supremacist white people, they're so stupid because they actually credit the success of the West to the whiteness. Because, and I've argued with them, they'll be like, who invented the internet? White person. Who invented the assembly line and automobiles mass produced? Henry Ford. He was openly racist. Who invented airplanes? The Wright brothers. They were white. Who invented the toilet? Who invented, and it's true, a lot of these inventions that everyone in the world uses were made by white people, but it's not because they were white. It's because they were Judeo-Christian and they were in a free society that was a democratic republic. So the democracy is like majority rules, but the republic is a check against the democracy because you don't want mob rules, because you get the mob all worked up and then they'll lynch the minority and treat them like crap. So that's why the West is successful. It's not, you can take any person of any race. You can take an Asian, a black person, an Arab person, any person from anywhere in the world, and you put them in the West and they immediately become successful. It has nothing to do with the racial aspects of it. So that's a good point. That's what's so maddening. Well, thank you. That's what's so maddening about all this stupid race baiting crap. And, I was in In-N-Out Burger the other day and I'm watching all the people work, and, this couple sits down next to me and it's an interracial couple. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? But I'm thinking, oh, this is one of those moments where like all of the intersectional race baiting, liberals and leftists would be like, oh, I'll bet that bothers you because you're racist, and it's like, actually, no, it doesn't bother me. I'm more interested in like the philosophy of people. I really don't care. And then she goes, oh, babe, you could get a job here. And then he goes, you see any white people back there? And I wanted to say something, but I didn't say anything, because it's like, obviously everything is my fault because I have blonde in my beard and I have green eyes. Yeah, I have. Yeah. So, but it's just funny because it's like, here's a young black kid. He could easily get a job at In-N-Out Burger. And there's no reason they wouldn't hire him because he's black. If anything, because he's black, they'd be like, oh yeah, we want to have a more intersectional, multicultural,
intersectional. What word is this? Is that a gender?
They're making up. It's kind of like the never-ending genders. They keep making stuff up. They make up words.
Is that a couch? An intersectional?
Yes. Yeah.
Or is that a sex toy? Is that a new vape?
It's the intersexual or intersectional coalition. It's like you have to, if you're a white person, then you automatically go down several pegs because of your privilege. But like, if you're a transgender black Native American part-time homosexual who's also pro-communist, then like you are higher on the scale of intersectionality because you have the least privilege and you're the most discriminated against.
Have the most options of getting a BJ tonight.
Well, no. In other words, the more white you are and the more Christian you are, the more privileged you are, and therefore your opinion doesn't matter. I'm serious. No, I'm serious.
But isn't an opinion, having your opinion listened to, the privilege itself? That's what white privilege would be, is that your opinion gets listened to.
Well, but that's the thing, is that it's just a way of forcing people who it's a way of isolating a certain culture of people and then cowing them into not being able to even argue their position so that they just shut up and then the other side wins the argument, because they can't actually win the argument. So the only way they can win the argument is by telling you that you don't have a right to argue because you're privileged. And to which my response is, you have white privilege too. To they go, oh, what? What did you say? I'm like, what's that in your hand over there? Oh, that's an iPhone. Who made that? Was that made by like an Arab country? Was that made in Africa? Oh, that's right. It was the guy who made that. He was part Arab and he was part white, and he was adopted by two white people, and he was raised and they loved him and they brought him up with Christianity. He ultimately didn't believe in Christianity, but he helped create the iPhone and helped create competition in the marketplace so that Microsoft didn't have a total domination. And as a result, now you are able to get this incredible piece of technology in your pocket for like nothing. And you're telling me that you don't have the same privilege as me, but you're holding an iPhone. And I just got an iPhone, and you've had one for 5 years. So who's enjoying that white privilege?
That's a great little speech or whatever. I mean, if that's like almost a campaign.
Well, okay, what if a white guy invented a toilet and you sit down and take a shit every day on a toilet? Are you enjoying white privilege?
Well, what about what's human privilege? What's human privilege?
But yeah.
I'm the human race.
Exactly.
That's my race.
Well, it's and a lot of the conservatives make this point. It's like
interhuman sexual race.
Okay, is it racist that most basketball players are black? The best basketball players? No. I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to put a little 5'2" Asian guy on the
thing?
It's a merit-based system. It just so happens that like
my favorite players from Serbia in the NBA.
Well, there you go.
He's dunking on these chumps.
Well, there
dude.
you go. And it's the same thing. How many pilots of F-16s are black? Like
they're too tall.
Well, first of all, that's the thing.
I wanted to be an F-16 pilot. And as soon as I found out, you got to be 5'7", and that's it. You can't even be any shorter. You can't be any taller or shorter.
Right. You also have to have perfect eyesight, which I don't have the greatest.
It's depressing.
Well, but
sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. But the interesting thing is that is it racism that's the reason that most of the fighter pilots are white and most of the basketball players who are professional are black, or is it just that like that's just the way it works out, and we're all kind of different, and we all have different things to bring to the table, and what makes us beautiful
is that we all work together
as human beings.
Because we need the ball players and we need the F-16
and we need
to be on the same team.
Exactly. And we need the Asian guy on the computer.
Cooking my food up.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's what's so sad is that the American dream is about it's all of us being together. It's like you've had friends like this who are Asian or black, and you joke with them, and you have fun, and they joke with you, and you really actually genuinely have love for each other. But these people are destroying that, and they're trying to put us all into categories, and they're trying to say, well, now that you're in that category, that's your category, and since you rate lower on this ladder of degrees, you just have to shut up, and your opinion doesn't matter. Like I had a black kid in Austin, Texas, who he was wearing a beret, trying to look like Che Guevara, and mixed with Malcolm X, and he was just spouting all of the propaganda that he was told by his leftist professor, and he told me that literally your opinion means nothing because you're a white person. And I was like, you're a racist motherfucker. And I said that to him in front of a bunch of people, and they were like, ooh, and of course I didn't, that was the last time I was invited out to a party with those group of people. But I was just like, dude, you're a racist. Like straight up, you're a racist. I was like, the fact that you say that to me proves that you're racist. Like straight up.
It's true.
I was like, literally, my opinion doesn't matter. And he goes, you've benefited from slavery. Your ancestors owned slaves. And I was like,
it's not true.
I was so upset. I was like, F you, dude. I was like, my my ancestor fought in the Civil War, and he not only did he fight for the North, he was in General Fremont's bodyguard, and he's like, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, yeah, figures you don't know who that is. Figures. But not only did no one in my family own slaves, they fought against slavery.
They were slaves.
Dude, they were slaves of the English. That's why they moved.
Irish. We're Irish. We're Czech. We've been, dude. The Queen, it's not even really racial. The Queen turned it to white.
She's the one who's racist.
The
Queen, royal family is racist as
goes
balls.
back to the beast is the racist one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the white.
Absolutely right.
Maybe it is the white ghost devil.
No. But that's the thing. Lucifer is racist against all people. He rebelled against God when he realized not only was he going to have to bow down to a human, but that one of the most exalted human being in the entire world, according to the Christian narrative, is the Virgin Mary, a woman, the first Christian, the first woman, the highest human being who's not also God. Like, Jesus is fully God and he's fully human, so he's not just a human. But who is the highest human in the world? It's the Virgin Mary. So that's so the story goes when Satan realized that he would have to bow down not only to a human, but a woman, like the feminine version of the human, he was like, this is too much, and he rebelled.
It's too much.
He rebelled. So
it's crazy. It's that simple, I guess.
No, but it makes perfect sense if you look at the world. And then who are these people who say that they're feminist and they believe in the feminine? They're ruining women's lives. They're destroying women's lives. They're convincing women that it's liberating to let a bunch of different dudes pound you on Tinder, and then you go to the abortion clinic and you slaughter your own child, and you're like, this is empowerment. Like, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
man, that's so fucking harsh.
I know it's brutal.
That's,
I know.
That's super harsh.
Oh, it's
super harsh rip.
Super
harsh rip.
It's Trigrodamus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but dude,
I might have to edit that in like twice. I'm gonna remix that. That's not even getting edited out. It's getting remixed.
Oh no. No, but I mean, the thing is, it's like when you look at a woman, like my wife is a perfect example. She used to be a leftist and a feminist, you know, and I finally fell out of my faith and abandoned the church and was like, I'm gonna have fun, and like Jim Morrison, I'm gonna get my kicks before the whole crap house goes up in flames. All right, and then I met her, and I saw her humanity, and I saw her beauty, and I saw that she didn't even realize how special she was, and she just thought it was all just a joke, and we'll just get your kicks and have fun, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. She decorates the house how she wants. She's got a big backyard, and it's whatever she wants, and she has her beautiful little children, and she cleans her home and makes her home, and she used to have a job making more money than I'm making right now. She could go out in the workforce, and she's very intelligent, and she's homeschooling the kids, and they can already read. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and the 3-year-old's already like processing how to read, and the 5-year-old, I mean, and you go to a public school, and it's like they're illiterate in high school.
They don't eat right. I still don't eat right because I went to public school, and even Catholic school.
No, it's true.
I never ate right. I didn't think
right.
and
that was a takeover too. I remember being in the Catholic school in like 4th grade, and I had a nun for a teacher, Sister Josine, and she was just like, she was grumbling because the Clintons passed some bill where in order to keep your tax exempt status as a private school, you had to update your curriculum. So we went from like studying American history to like social studies. And then we get the book, and on the front, it's a picture of Pharaoh's face, and then I start going through all the American presidents, and every Republican president was a terrible asshole, and every Democratic president was wonderful, and everyone just loved them. And it's like, well, that's really great. That's not one-sided.
That's why I'm glad I flunked out, because I never read any of those books. Somehow you made it through the jungle, we hope. I stay outside the jungle and whack at it with the hatchet.
Dude, I was going to go to college, and I sat in on some classes, and the first class, one of the first things I sat in on, this dumb, ignorant, foolish little leftist professor gets up there and just spouts like what you would hear on NPR, or what you would see on Saturday Night Live, or what we now have in the Colbert Report, or the Jon Stewart show, or what's his name, I can't think of his name right now, Trevor Noah. It's just pure propaganda. Yeah, and it's all one-sided, and it's political blackface. They just create the worst caricature they can of the opposite side, and then they just pander to that and make the audience feel special. And it was just, where we've gone from then to now is just incredible. And this professor gets up in front of a class and gives some like pro-Democrat Party speech, and then like endorses abortion. And says anyone who doesn't vote for abortion is like a fascist. And it's like, Hitler was really fond of abortion. Like, he literally implemented one of the first like state-sponsored abortion programs to get rid of the feeble-minded and the Down syndrome people, and the people who, because he wanted a master race. It's like, and you're telling me that if I don't vote for abortion, I'm a pro-fascist. It's like, how many people in this book, not this book, how many people in this class have read like thorough histories and books about the history of the Third Reich? Probably no one, maybe one. And I've read like 1,000, because I had a weird artistic dad, and he wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons, and we didn't have cable TV, and he had a massive library about World War II, and I just read everything because I wasn't allowed to do anything else. So I just read all these books. I learned everything about fascists. And then here's this guy telling me a fascist if I don't support a policy that was originally implemented by Mr. Fascism himself. And then so I, disagreed with him. And my friend was like, you gotta shut up, man. If you say that in class, he'll flunk you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so that's how this works. I pay $100,000 and get in debt, and I have to go to this class, and I basically have to pretend I'm a Democrat. That's my education. Like, dude, pound sand. I'm not going to get a degree from this place. This is retarded. And you know what?
What's the thing I heard about, like, the Clinton girl? How they were all they've been getting into Harvard and shit, like, false.
Oh, false pretenses. Yeah.
And then they've been kicking out
Pay to play.
They're not letting Asian people in because the truth is, if they let anyone in who was qualified, it would be like 90% occupied by Asian kids.
Well, of course, yeah. And so, see, that's a disservice. You're taking a poor inner city black kid who's fairly smart, and you're putting him into the highest college, and you're kicking out some Asian kid who's like a genius, and you're saying, well, we need to be fair. And it's like, dude, that's not fair to the black kid. You're not even giving the black community a chance to see what they're capable of. You're prematurely, what it is you find out the real racists are the liberals. Dude, they're the real racists. I swear to you. The first time I heard Johnny Rebel, who's the most racist country singer you'll ever hear in your life, I mean, I've said this before in previous podcasts. I have a whole family. Half of my family is Canadians, and half of them are conservative, old school Arizona Republican, Barry Goldwater Republicans, and they all listen to country music. And I never heard of Johnny Rebel my whole life. And I've heard every old school country song you can imagine. And then I go to Texas and I'm hanging out with a bunch of liberals, and their dad's a 33rd degree Freemason, and he's like Mr. Intersectional leftist lawyer.
They do it as humor, but it's real.
Dude,
hatred.
They told me straight up, they go, come on, black people are dumb. And I was like, what? And I look at one of them, and he's a gay guy, and I go, you dated a black guy? And he goes, well, yeah, it was fun, but I didn't say he was a genius. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude.
That's funny.
You guys are the real.
Are they serious?
No, they were, dude. And I'm like,
dude, that's horrific. That's where like the Chainsaw Massacre thing.
I know. See, they're the real racists.
It's just it's backwards, people.
Dude, but then like, and I'm over here listening to like Larry Elder and like Thomas Sowell and like Ben Carson, who ran for president, and I'm like, these black guys are awesome, dude. Here's
I love
an awesome
these
black guys, man.
These are my
brothers, man. I love these dudes.
We need to have a segment like, here's an awesome black guy.
Oh,
awesome black guy.
Dude, forget about Michael Jackson. Like, these are my brothers.
Check
dude.
out R.L. Burnside if you like good
oh yeah.
music.
Oh, he's great. No, but some of our family in California, one of their neighbors, he's become friends with me on social media, and he's like an arch conservative, right? And he didn't grow up with a father, as far as I know, and he got into cars, and he's really good at working on cars, and he learned a skill, and he's good at it, and he's smart, and when you can figure out how an engine works, you can figure out how the Democrat Party works, and you're like, wait a minute. These guys think I'm just a dumb black guy. Screw these assholes. These guys don't even, they think I'm primitive and like I'm beneath them, and then they try to pander to me and tell me that Republicans are racist. It's like, no, dude. Like, Trump genuinely likes black people. Trump likes people who make an impact.
I like black people more than I like wherever his wife's from. They're kind of strange.
Oh, Trump, you mean?
His wife.
Well, she's from Russia.
Yeah, but no, there's certain parts of Russia
one of
where
the many
they're
parts
almost like it's like
that has been encompassed or engulfed by them. No, but you're right. A lot of the Eastern cultures,
but it's like she's also like, it's kind of just like a different kind of.
Yeah, it's the Eastern. That's a whole nother situation. The Eastern cultures are largely unknown to Americans. It was kind of like the area that was not really known. Americans didn't learn about that in history, and now we don't learn about anything in history unless we seek it out ourselves. But it's the same thing with the Eastern countries. What Bernie Sanders is peddling right now is what destroyed those people. It's what destroyed their culture. And even now they're coming back, and even someone like Putin is realizing he needs Christianity. He needs he needs certain traditional things, because the Soviet Union collapsed. Because guess what? The communist narrative, the democratic socialist communist bullshit narrative, it always fails because of human nature. And you can't change human nature. And that's what these people are really bothered about, is they hate God so much that they think, well, we're going to reorganize and re-engineer humanity and human nature. And it's just like in China. And you can see what's happening in China. Now they're like, oh gosh, now we got to get people to breed, because we're just, how are we going to sustain the welfare state now that nobody's breeding and all these people are getting old? And then everything that, this is one of the points I wrote down here. The Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China. I love it. I really don't like China, but I love their wall. Beautiful wall.
It saved lots of people a lot of trouble. And
even Matt Damon likes the Great Wall of China, okay? I mean, it's so funny because it's like the liberals are like, Obama will be like, we can learn a lot from China. Like Justin Trudeau's dad, I'm pretty sure, went to China when they were in the middle of a famine and like people were like eating bark on trees and they were starving to death. And he's like, gosh, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to have elections? This is really great. When you're sitting on the throne of power looking at all the peasants, you feel great about yourself. And, and that goes back to the Trudeau scandal. He made half of his cabinet women and the other half men, like 50-50. And Jordan Peterson called him a weasel because he was like, it's like 30% women, you know what I mean? And the rest is men. And it should be competency based. You shouldn't get to have a position in high ranking government because you have a vagina or you have a penis. You should be able to get a high ranking position because you're competent. And then here's how God works. This is why God is in control. And it's so funny. The woman that he chose to be in charge of, like, I think she's like the Canadian version of the Attorney General or the Minister of Justice or something. She uncovered this scheme that Trudeau was behind with all of his, handlers, where this giant corporation that tries to look like it's a union for the people was basically, profiteering like they all do and was screwing over its pensioners and stuff and was like, oh, well, we're going to go bankrupt, And so they kept, I don't know all the details, but basically the government, had this sweetheart deal with this left-leaning corporation, and then they eventually discovered, well, what you guys are doing is unethical and it's wrong, so we're going to slap you with a fine. So then they responded by saying, okay, we're just going to cut the pensions of all of our people, and we're just, we're still going to get ours. We're still going to get our profit. So then the Canadian government orchestrates a deal where they give them like a grant. They charge them a fine for being unethical, and then they give him free money to pay off the fee. So it's just like a big, ridiculous dog and pony show. And then this woman, this indigenous woman who Justin Trudeau put in this position to prove how, multicultural and intersectional he is, she actually has a spine. And like her dad is like a chief or something. He's a really intelligent, like, Native American from Canada. And like he's got a spine and he's got a backbone, and I don't agree. She's a leftist. I don't agree with her, but to her credit, she basically was like, we're going to do an investigation. So Justin Trudeau sent all these people over, and they were like, we need to come up with a solution. And she's like, so are you trying to get me to change my decision to do an investigation on your unethical behavior? And they're like, what we need to do is find a solution. And then she looked Justin Trudeau in the eye and she was like, are you trying to influence my decision as the Minister of Justice? Because that's like a major crime. And he's like, no, I would never do this. But we just need to find a solution. But this is what liberals do. They change the definition of words to suit their narrative or their argument or their agenda at that moment. So he just kept. So eventually she wouldn't budge. So he fired her, and he put her into like charge of I think it was Veterans Affairs, which is a demotion. And then, of course, when they call him on it, the media is like, well, why would you do that? Why would you demote her? Was it because she wouldn't back down and she was going to, like, investigate what you were doing? And he's like, well, the administrative, the being in charge of Veterans Affairs is very important because we really care about our veterans, And they, well, you're not exactly answering my question. And it was beautiful to watch Justin Trudeau tap dance and try to, like, not answer the question. And it's like, you're a dirtier scumbag than Donald Trump. You are a dirty scumbag, and you came from money, and you traveled the world, and you taught kids at elementary school, and you don't know what the hell you're doing, and all you do is smile and bullshit, and you're just as dirty as the rest of them. At least Trump is like, there's a certain level of honesty to him. Like, you almost know when he's like telling a fib. He'll be like, the greatest ever, everybody loves me, and it's like, oh, okay, Trump's embellishing right now. And it's just funny. It's just hilarious how it works, because it's like these people think they're in charge, and they think, and even if Trump is really secretly like, Illuminati or whatever. He's really secretly a devil worshipping Freemason, and it's all just a dog and pony show. These people think they're in control, and they think they're gods, and they think they're the fittest, and they're not. And God humbles all of them, and man, are they going to get theirs when their time comes? Like, I shudder to think of what's going to happen to these people that pit economies against each other, and they figure we're all useless eaters, and they don't see the beautiful nature of the common person, the common family, going to work and loving their kids, and that's what life is about. And these people are so immersed in their power and their addiction to themselves that they really think, well, we're going to change the world. We're going to reorganize humanity. We're going to create order out of chaos. It's like, dude, have fun in hell with Satan, because it's going to suck. I'm just saying, let this be a warning shot. Just remember, I tremble in fear of God's judgment, and it scares the crap out of me. And if you don't, man, I feel sorry for you. I really do. I pity the fool, straight up, because it's not going to be pretty. And people, and the funny thing is that, people who everybody respects, like Bob Dylan, for example, he'll straight up say in an interview, I made a deal, with the, people in charge of, the world unseen, I'm holding up my end of the bargain. It's like, what exactly is he talking about there? It's like the people who really are in charge and run everything, they all believe in God, and they all believe in the devil. They all do. And so which side are you going to, are you going to be on the side of life, or are you going to be on the side of death? Which one?
Well, damn, it's like, it's going to be freaky if all that stuff's actually true. And about, people have been giving me, cause I got off the airplane the other day. So what's the world look? Is the world round, And I said, no, I didn't see the curvature from up there. And I said, it's just funny because it just all ties in a little bit, the doubt,
Well, the one thing I will say about the flat earth movement is that I don't agree with that, what's the word? I don't agree with that conclusion, but I understand the tendency of people to something clicks in their head and they're like, you know what? Excuse me. Why am I believing all these people? Why am I just taking their word for it? These people are scoundrels. They're liars. Like, you could see Justin Trudeau lying through his teeth on television, and he's lying, and he knows he's lying, but he's hoping that enough of you are dumb enough to where
people are banking many times well, he's still cute, and I respect the fact that he has the balls to lie to you idiots, and he's trying to make it
exactly. And what you find out of
slime ball, dude, that's what we call slime ball. Right. I'm not even that old of a person.
What he's doing, that's genius, because what he's doing is he's appealing to the slime ball in all of us.
Well, he's like, well, I was just hoping I could get away with it this one time, and you guys, because I'm just
here's a nice intersectional answer. Look at my hair, aren't I handsome? Wouldn't you like to go on a date with me? I would be very nice to you. It's like, dude,
he did it for the gram, or whatever they call it.
Give me Jordan Peterson.
Dude, I did it for the crow.
Oh man, yeah. If you could clean up your damn room, before you criticize the world, you scumbag. How dare you? And it's sad because we live in crazy times, and we actually have someone to quote the great Dr. Michael Savage. I love when he goes on a tear and he gets pissed. It tickles me to the bone. He calls her occasional cortex. I mean, she'll be like someone was like, why have you spent so much money on gasoline? Why didn't you just take the subway? And she's like, I'm just living in the world. And it's like, so the world's going to end in 10 years if we don't stop burning fossil fuels.
But you got shit to do.
But you are just living in the world.
You're just living your best life with all of us.
You are evil. You are an evil person, and I don't even know if you realize it. And that's what
the CIA psyop is. Let's see how many of these assholes we can actually get to follow this crazy bitch.
Right. No, but I know them. I know people. And I'm not going to mention his name.
I don't. I really don't.
No, I know a kid who was raised in a Catholic family by wonderful parents who loved him. I mean, they were misguided, and they bought into the modernist heresy, which was basically just a Freemasonic ruse. An enlightenment ruse, And I remember him blaspheming the Holy Spirit on purpose because he thought it was all just a joke. And then he got a job working for the government, and then he went to Texas. And then his job was to try to go on private land and be like, "Oh, I found 3 African swallows and a nest on this tree on this giant ranch in Texas. And I'm going to try to get the government to declare that this is a special area for an endangered species so they can just take the land of this Texas family that's owned this land for like 5 generations." He's a total parasite, and he has no kids, and he's just living in the world, bro. And he's an ardent Democrat, and he hates Trump, but man, does he like to spend gasoline. Oh, he loves to burn fuel. And not only that, when he dies, what's he going to give? What is he leaving for us? He has no children. He's consuming resources. He's destroying the foundation of Western civilization, and he actually feels morally justified. And he looks at someone like me, and he thinks I'm an idiot. And it's like, I've read, not only have I read the books that he's read that he believes in, like the population bomb, he won't read the books that I've read that make me believe what I believe. So that's the difference if you're on the right or the left. People on the right, I have a copy of the Communist Manifesto. I have a copy of the Quran. You know what I mean? I want to know what they think, but they don't want to know what I think. They don't want to read G.K. Chesterton. They don't want to read, the great conservative traditionalist writers of Western civilization because, he's just a white racist. But like, you haven't even read what he said. He's actually not. Oh, no. Even if he's not and he thinks he's not, he still is. Oh.
Do you ever think that's going to overpower, it's going to overthrow the white race at some point?
Well, what is the white race?
Well, no, I'm saying,
you're my cousin,
the mass
and you're half Mexican, right, and I'm German, but we're both Caucasian,
right?
And we both look the same.
But will the mass hysteria get to a point where they actually try to go full Nazi on white people?
Oh,
worldwide?
Of course.
Do you predict that?
It's in the Bible. Everything
really?
that the Bible predicts is true, and it's not that they're going to go after white people per se, because the most Catholics that I know of that are real Catholics are all Mexican. I love Mexican Catholics. I don't care that their skin is like 1 or 2 shades darker than mine. Like,
most of them are paler than you are.
Well, I mean, the more they stay inside and use air conditioning and shit, before they know it, they're gonna. Yeah, it's so stupid. It's like what white guy has ever seen a gorgeous Mexican girl walk by and been like, "Oh my gosh, look." I mean, I've seen gorgeous Mexican girls.
Whoa, Mark, don't get too...
No, I'm serious. No, I had a crush on like 3 or 4 Mexican girls, and I thought they were gorgeous. I was ready to like marry them and have 10 kids, but they were like, "You're too white, you're too white."
Oh, you got that, dude.
Oh, brutal, I was like devastated. I was like, man, I guess I am too white.
You are probably too white.
Well, but then it's the same thing. What Mexican guy has seen some gorgeous blonde girl walk by, and he's like, "Gosh, she's so hot. Look at her. Oh my gosh." But you know what? She's the white devil. It's so dumb. And if there's one thing anyone takes away from this message in this podcast, it's the media and the elite and the left. They're really the racist ones.
And they're all not married to someone from another race.
Right. Or they do get married to someone from another race and then they get divorced. But that's the thing, is that humanity, the average Joe who goes to work every day, the people who are listening to this podcast, we're not racist. Like, maybe we have different people have suspicions about certain cultures, but that's just cultural differences. It's not. It's so dumb. It's the same. Like I have every race in my family, and it's not like I look at, and I've said this on many other podcasts and in conversations with other people. We can't let them, divide us and convince us that it's all about race and it's all about, this person against this person. That the elite and the media, they are the racist ones. They are the ones who kill people. The left is they're the ones who kill people by the millions. Those are the people who are actually behind the hate, and like this mosque attack is a perfect example. This white guy goes in there, this dumb...
Where was he from?
I think I'm not sure. I don't know all the details, but I just know that he traveled to New Zealand to do the attack. And I think
by himself?
Yeah, but
Dude, I don't know.
No, but that's the thing. It could totally be a
This
government.
reminds me of that Las Vegas guy.
Right. It could. I mean, it reads like a CIA operation or something.
Same thing as that Las Vegas. There's going to be all kinds of weird details.
Right. And of course, yeah, with the Las Vegas guy, we never figured out why he did it. And it's if anything, it's probably because he hated conservatives and he wanted to teach a bunch of country music fans a lesson. And so the media won't report that. It's like, how many times has a church full of Christians? There was a church full of Christians in the Middle East, and they got blown up with grenades through the stained glass windows, and then AK-47 guys in the back. They hosed everyone in the church, and they desecrated the altar. I mean, there was a priest in France who got his throat slit while he was in the middle of saying mass, and the media puts it as like a footnote. But then they're so desperate for some...
That's truly terrifying.
No, it is, because they're so desperate for some dumb white guy to do something stupid so that it plays into their narrative. Like, this white guy thinks he's done some great thing for Western civilization and for whites. He is my enemy, and I'm a white guy. He's an idiot. Like, all that he's done is he's played into the narrative of the left about white supremacy, and because they're always making the case, well, all races, all cultures are equal, everything's the same, and you got to be more afraid of white supremacists than you do of Muslim extremists. And it's like, well, how many times has somebody gone into a place like Pulse nightclub? 50 people died in Pulse nightclub. It was a Muslim guy killing a bunch of homosexual people. How many times has a Muslim guy gone in the name of Allah, and killed tons of not just Christians, but secular people, homosexual people, people of anyone who's an infidel, who's not Islam, who doesn't believe in Islam. But the media will downplay it. The first thing they'll say, a Muslim guy ran over like women and children who were like walking in a market for Christmas, and I watched the videos on LiveLeak so I can see what happened. I watched videos of groaning little children who had just been run over by a truck, and then the media comes out and they go, well, the first thing we need to say, hey, let's not say that it's the fault of Islam. Let's not criticize Muslims because we don't want to be racist. And it's like, hold on a second. I'm not racist towards Muslims. I have a problem with the philosophy of Islam. I don't like the religion. I don't like what it teaches, which is the point Sam Harris was making, is that at least Christianity has a 2.0 and Islam doesn't. And that's when, Ben Affleck called him a racist. I have a problem with the philosophy of specific religions. I don't agree with Hindus. I don't agree with African voodoo beliefs. But when's the last time a Hindu or an African voodoo or real practicing Christian, went in and killed a bunch of people because they're fervently believing in Christianity? I guarantee you, this guy who killed all these people in this mosque, what he did is so vehemently anti-Christian. It's completely against the gospel. I mean, Peter cut off the ear of a soldier who was, I don't believe taking Jesus, and Jesus said, "Those who live by the sword die by the sword." It's against Christianity to kill innocent civilians. It's against Christianity. It's fundamentally against Christianity. But the media is just going to say
they relate a crazy white person to Christianity.
Right. So the media. I mean, I already saw diagrams of
we knew this was going to happen.
Well, yeah, and we do, but I
don't think that guy was. I think he was a zombie, a sentinel sent in.
Well, he's an idiot. But here's the thing, and he's an evil person, and I hope he gets what's coming to him.
He might be a brainwashed innocent soul that needs prayers.
Well, that's the thing. He might
sent in there on some kind of.
It's kind of like Charlottesville. The guy who
is he still alive?
Yeah.
Okay, here's a scenario, just because I've seen too many movies. They might have his whole family in a dungeon, and they're all naked, Well, and if you don't do this...
Well, that's always a potentially possibility.
You go do this, and we'll send you with your family far away.
But people don't even want to consider that there are men in power that are that evil.
See, I've been so awakened to so many truths of history and stuff, and
truth is stranger than fiction.
Spiritual truth in history, like... supernatural truth and shit that I
that's the thing, that the high degree Freemasons, the people who run the world, they believe in spirituality as much as anyone else. It's like, excuse me, I'll never forget a 33rd degree Mason.
You're convinced
out of nowhere, he brought up the Eucharist to me.
He goes, you
really believe Jesus is in this piece of bread? And I looked at him and I said, you believe it as much as I do, if not more so. And he kind of snickered, and I was like, If it's not real, why do you guys go to the trouble of stealing Eucharists to desecrate them? Why do Satanists break into Catholic churches and break open the thing to take out this little piece of bread if it's just a cookie and it's not really Jesus and there's nothing supernatural about it, and spirituality is all just bunk? Because they believe in it more than anyone else. And maybe this guy was just a crazy racist and he did something stupid because he thought he was, he's just your typical perfect run-of-the-mill stereotypical dumb, racist. But either way, the media immediately, the first thing the government's going to do is, now we need to ban all guns.
If they do that, they're going to also at the same time probably ban all people leaving the country.
Well, who knows what they're
I'm getting out of here, dude. I'm leaving.
Where are you going to go?
I'm taking my American flag with me.
Where? Don't take that American flag with you. You'll get mobbed. You'll be in some other country.
No, it's going to be like the Holy Grail. I'm going to package it up and hide it in the treasure chest.
Well, there you go. Well, you'll be like surrounded. Oak Island up in this You'll be surrounded by a mob. And they'll be kicking the crap out of you, and they'll be like, "Let's lynch this stupid American. We hate America." And they'll all be videotaping.
There'll be nowhere that takes refugees, American refugees.
They'll all be videotaping it on their iPhone.
You know where we'll take them. You know where we'll take an American refugee?
Where'd you get that technology?
North Korea will take American refugees. I'll go over there with Dennis Rodman, and we'll be freaking inventing shit.
No, see, the thing that people don't understand about North Korea is that. And this is what I wrote on here on my list of things we need to talk about.
All right.
It all comes down. Send it. It all comes down to the value of life. What is human life worth? Like when I heard about that mosque attack today, I said a rosary for those victims. I prayed fervently for those Muslims because even though I don't agree with their religion, the fact that they take the time to go down to a mosque.
There's so many things we love about their culture.
Well, no, but I love just the fact that they respect that there's one God and that
their Old Testament.
Well,
it's Old Testament.
Right. And I think they're deceived, and I'm sure they think I'm deceived, and they believe Jesus didn't die on the cross and he's not the Messiah, and I believe he is the Messiah and he specifically died on the cross, and that was the whole point. And so we have a disagreement, but I respect those. I like that women who are Muslim cover their heads. My wife and my daughters cover their heads when they go to church. It's a sign of modesty and respect of their femininity. And those people are trying to transcend. It's not enough for them to just go to the soccer game. They want to get in touch with the creator of the universe, the intelligent designer, and they're just going and trying to worship him and get in touch with him. And then some asshole comes in there and shoots everyone because he's a primitive retard. And then the first thing the media does is they come out and they're like, yeah, this is what we've been saying all along. Maybe now we can create some real tension between Westerners and Muslims, and maybe the Muslims will retaliate and they'll go into Christian churches and kill people, and then there'll be a bloodbath, and then we'll get higher ratings. They're evil. They're evil sons of bitches. They don't care about human life. They don't care about unborn children. They don't care about the Muslims that died. They don't care. Whenever Christians die, they don't even care. They don't even report it. It's like 50 Christians die in a church, and it's like, what? What did you say? Oh, I can't hear you. Hey, look at Cardi B. Hey, look at Trump tweeted Kofefe.
Here's something.
Don't pay attention to that.
Ultimately, God's in charge, and he uses his greatest weapon is Mother Nature. It's God's greatest weapon on this earth. Of course, that's what it would be. I learned something the other day. The tallest stadium in the United States is where? Mile High Stadium, right? Where's the second tallest stadium in as far as altitude?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's Glendale, Arizona.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Why? Because all the other ones are on the coastlines. And so the ultimate if one tidal wave, one serious, earth shakeup from God is going to really set things straight.
Right.
And I mean...
natural disasters, there's a whole thing, in Catholic tradition about things that happen, like evil that God allows to happen. There's different forms of evil, but ultimately God respects our free will. He respects our decision. That's why people go to hell and people go to heaven. The people who go to hell, they want to go to hell. Once they get there, they realize...
I can't believe that.
I know. It's the modernist heresy that people don't go to hell. But the reason that's the sin you can do against the Holy Spirit is when you're about to die and you get that call in your heart and you go, no, I'm not gonna believe in that religious bullshit. I'm fine. I what's his name? And I'm not trying to judge the state of his soul, but the great singer Frank Sinatra, I did it my way.
Love that song.
It's a great song, but like this one of these Catholic theologians, Peter Kreeft, he says that's the song that's playing when you go into hell. I did it my way. It's like, exactly. That's the problem. Did Jesus Christ do it his way? No, he did what the Father wanted. He didn't want it. He said, "Let this cup pass from me." He realized what it's like to be human. I don't want to get whipped and scourged and crucified. I don't want to go through all of this humiliation and suffering. Why do I have to go through this? Isn't there some way for me to not go through this? And God is just like, sorry. And that's the mystery of existence. I don't know why we have to suffer, but there's meaning to suffering. And when you suffer for good things, that is the meaning of life. What the mosque attack represents is the ultimately the people who are the most admirable are the Muslims who were trying to pray and they got gunned down. I love those people. We have disagreements, but I respect those people. Those people are trying to love God, and they may have a different idea of what God is, but they are genuinely reaching out for the transcendent, and that idiot went in there because he's just a fool.
But here's my point. They're kind of idiots too for not standing up and blowing his brains out right while they're praying.
Well, but see, you don't want to be careful because that comes next.
That should be everyone that goes to church should be packed. It should be a private like Elks Club. You go to the Elks Club at the bar and shit, or like bingo. Those dudes are packing. The biker club. You go to the bar.
Hey, let's just.
Why can't we be a club that packs heat?
Well, let's just throw this out there. I'm not going to name any names, but there are priests. There are traditional priests in traditional churches, and they know that certain members in the church are packing. But everything is on the down low because half of the congregation vote Democrat and they use birth control and they've had abortions and they go home and they watch HBO and
they're called the Saint Fragile. We go to church at Saint
Fragile.
I'm sending my kids to Saint Fragile. I'm sick of this shit over here.
Yeah. Well, it's like one of my favorite priests. He had to leave his church because he taught the high schoolers or the middle schoolers. They said, well, why does the church say that homosexuality is wrong? And he said, well, the church teaches that all people are children of God and everyone should be loved and treated with respect. But the church has always taught that human sexuality is very specific, and as difficult as it is to wrap your mind around, the only legitimate form of sexual expression is between a man and a woman when they make love as a married couple, and they're open to the possibility of life.
That sounds like bigotry to me.
Well, you don't have to believe that, but these kids got so pissed. They went home and told their parents, and some of the parents were big donors, and they applied pressure. And then this wonderful traditional priest gets kicked out, right? And I went to this school my whole life, and the two priests that were there before him were leftist priests, and they both got defrocked for sexual misconduct, again, because they're leftists. One of them's homosexual, and they try to say it's pedophilia. He didn't engage in pedophilia. He engaged in pederasty or ephebophilia. He was attracted to a post-pubescent. It's homosexual predation. It's a slightly older homosexual man in his 20s or 30s, and he's attracted to a man who's in his teens, and they're both attracted to each other, and they do something sexual, and then they go, oh, it's pedophilia. No, that's not pedophilia. That's specifically homosexual predation. But that priest was allowed to say whatever he wanted. And he'd give these homilies, and he'd spin his arm around like he was winding up his arm to punch something, and he'd go, yay, God, yay, at the end of church. And everyone,
he didn't.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I went to church as a little kid, and I saw him, and everyone kind of looked at each other like, this guy's gay. And then he gets defrocked later, and he stripped of his faculties because he engaged in pederasty. And then guess what happens? There's no Arizona, there's no Arizona Republic. I call it the Arizona Repugnant. There's no Arizona Repugnant article about him because he's a leftist. But this priest that I love, who's Mr. Traditional, who taught the true teaching about church teaching about sexuality, he gets kicked out of the parish. And then the Arizona Repugnant runs an article, and they say, well, it has something to do with sexual misconduct. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, this guy didn't do anything sexual with anyone. And all he did was tell these kids the truth. And the Arizona Repugnant is reporting that he's some sort of pedophile. And then they didn't report anything about the actual guy who was in a position of authority, and he preyed upon a young homosexual kid who was like in his teens. But it's normal in the homosexual community, if you have homosexual friends, it's normal for a guy in his 20s to hook up with a guy who's like 16 or 17.
Nice.
But what would happen if I was 29 and I'm straight and I met some girl at a party and she's 16? Well, that's rape. But apparently, if you're homosexual, it's not rape because intersectionality and something, multiculturalism, and don't be a bigot. But it's all double standards. And that's how the devil works. It's all double standards. It's like, well, it's like in the animal farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It's like, oh, okay. So that's how it works. But that's the thing. It's just like the sex abuse crisis in the church right now. You got someone like Cardinal Pell in Australia, I believe, or I can't remember if it's Australia or New Zealand, and he's been like accused of these sex crimes, and there's no evidence, and he's about to go to prison, right? But then you have actual pedophiles and pederasts who are accused of child sex trafficking. Pope Francis's like close friend in Argentina. Pope Francis was his confessor. He was accused of engaging in child sex trafficking. And the woman who accused him, she said, if I appear dead or anything, if something happens to me, just know that they got rid of me. She just died 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, if something happens to me,
they killed her.
If something happens to me or anyone ever is on this podcast, just know that we didn't.
Fortunately, we're not big enough fish to where they wouldn't want to fry us.
Bullshit. Everyone's a big enough fish. If you're walking in the spirit realm, we're all famous in the spirit realm.
Well, that's true. We're all no, it's true. It's just like what happened to Alex Jones. He gets banned, right?
I think I have a new conspiracy about for flat earthers.
Well, what's
why Alex Jones got banned? He was the one
He was against flat Earth.
He was against it, but he was the one person open to letting guests be on there and documenting that.
Well, but Joe Rogan lets that Joey Diaz guy or whatever.
But no, Alex Jones is on the media side as well as like on the news side of things. Where Joe Rogan's just on like the entertainment and like in learning side maybe.
Right. Well, it's the free form.
You don't get your news from Joe Rogan, but you can get your news from Alex Jones when like something political is going on, the presidential debate. We followed.
That's
people
true.
Follow that.
Well, yeah, he's more on. That is true. He's more on top of it. But it's like it's funny because all these people who distance themselves from Alex Jones, and like I like these guys. Like Steven Crowder is a good example. He's a Canadian comedian who's been blackballed plenty of times because and he makes great points. And I agree with him about a ton of stuff. There's certain things I disagree with him about, but like even
a lot of those guys,
he just had Alex Jones on his show. Joe Rogan has Alex Jones on his show, and it gets like millions. I
always
views.
said the best thing that could happen for Alex Jones. I think they planned it. That they need to ban Alex Jones because Trump is now really trying to get the word to spread out, and the best way to do it is put Alex Jones as a guest on all these. I said this about Michael Savage. The best thing Michael Savage should do is forget his own podcast, be a guest every day on someone else's podcast.
See, the problem with Michael Savage is he rips other.
It doesn't matter.
So hard.
If I was Joe Rogan, I'd be like, please rip me. Please sit down in my office and just tear me.
But he's good, dude. Michael Savage is an artist, dude. He is so funny.
He's hilarious.
He's got a book he wrote years ago called The Political Zoo, and he describes, because he used to be like a botanist, and he's actually like a real. He has like science degrees and stuff. He's not he's not some chump.
He's smarter than any liberal there is out there. Well, as far as botany goes.
I mean, I've never heard any of them answer.
He knows more about the killer whales and he fights for the
elephants.
The elephants and the bears more than
he's
anyone.
A genuine conservationist. It's like me. I can't tell you how many liberals I've met over the years working in the pet industry. Because I've been working,
and they're the ones that are like, well, just let them all die.
Let them die.
We'll come in the morning,
dude. We could do a whole.
I'm just imagining that too,
dude. We could do a whole podcast. I used to work at PetSmart. Now I called it Death Smart, and all of the the most liberal, my district supervisor, who was like an open homosexual, who would come into work and he knew I was Christian and he'd like crack jokes about Christianity, which imagine if I was in charge and I was the district manager and I went into my lower manager and I cracked jokes about him being homosexual. Well, that's not allowed because that's intolerant. But apparently because I'm a white Christian male and he's a gay white male, it's okay for him to mock my religion. He did it all the time. He literally came in and looked at my sick tank and he goes, "Oh my gosh." He goes, "You actually take the sick tank thing seriously." And I'm like, his name was Craig Cheesy. I probably shouldn't put his name out there, but it was just funny because his last name was Cheesy.
Yeah, I can't. That's not his real last name.
No, but but Cheesy. So we'll call him Mr. Cheesy. And he comes in and he cracks a joke, and I go, "Well, you guys were saying that we need to get fish profits up, and I've literally I had a list of all the fish that got sick that I had healed and then put back in the main floor and then sold them." And I wasn't, because I'm a conservative, I didn't treat all fish the same. I'd take a $35, $40 goldfish and I would put more emphasis on him because he's a more expensive fish than like a little tetra or something.
That's pretty fucked, but
well, okay. Well, what do you mean? If you got a couple little minnows and each one of them's $2, and then you got one fish and he's 50, which
save
one
all
are you
the
gonna
fish.
save?
Meanwhile, you're stepping on all the little clams underneath in the mud.
Well, but no, that's why I had to quit, because I couldn't deal with the loss of life and the lack of respect for individual life, and that's what I realized about liberals. That's why they're always projecting that they care about the downtrodden and they care about the animals and they care about the children, because really,
they don't have any of them.
They don't care about the children. They don't care about the downtrodden.
They don't.
And they don't frickin' care about
the
animals.
They don't own any
dude.
Animals. They don't run any horse ranches.
They'll care about their one dog.
No, they'll have a cat, but there's none of them out there saving horses with twisted guts.
Exactly.
There's no one out there saving, tranquilizing polar bears and making sure that they have the good, healthy pregnancy.
Right.
Those are all animal-loving, hunting, like Ted Nugent type people. Ted Nugent will save a bear's life and then take one out and eat it later.
Exactly.
And keep the herd healthy.
Exactly.
Like a savage, and it's scary and it's terrifying, but that's the reality we live in.
That's the reality.
We used to run with giants on this planet. That's what these people. I think liberals, half their problem is they don't believe that it's true. That we used to run with giants on this planet. And
well, that's just a conspiracy theory.
Well, maybe so.
And then they'll find the skeleton and they'll go, "That's just an anomaly." And then you'll go, "Well, hold on a second. You can't find the missing link. You've never found it." "Well, we found this thigh bone and this femur bone."
That would be a good. This would be a great segment for a podcast. What level do you believe up to this week? Like how? Like what are you convinced of this week? Like, well, you know what? You know what happened to me this week? I don't believe dinosaurs are real, bro.
Yeah. What's your bullshit meter?
I really don't believe dinosaurs are real. I don't think. I'm on the fence
they're
about
real.
I'm on the fence, dude.
No, it makes sense. I mean, from a Christian perspective, God was like, you know what?
I believe Noah wiped out whatever creatures were here. Noah's Ark,
the whole
flood,
at least
the Great Flood.
From what I understand, the ancient texts are basically that the fallen angels rebelled because Lucifer could see the future. He refused to bow to the woman, and that's why eventually the Virgin Mary crushes the serpent's head with her dainty little foot, because God loves the Virgin Mary because of her humility and her willful submission to him. And then the more she does that, the more he elevates her. And that's why he deliberately has her crush the head of Satan. But Satan falls to the earth, and then Satan begins to breed with other creatures. That's supposed to be the source of the Nephilim and the giants and stuff. And then that's when God stripped the fallen angels of the ability to procreate. And so then he limited them to the spiritual realm. And here's the crazy thing I just learned about today. Exorcists don't like to talk about it, but you've heard of the band Incubus, right?
Yeah.
Well, an incubus, if you look up the definition, is a spiritual male demon that has sex with you. And a succubus is a female.
From what theology is this?
From the Catholic theology. Exorcists, they don't like to talk about it because it's better for people to not know, apparently, all the details. But there's actual stories, and
so that's Latin. Is incubus is Latin?
I'm not sure the language
Sounds
origins.
Like it could be. I could see it Greek mythology type.
Well, I mean, I don't know all the details off the top of my head, but you can do the research if you're interested. But
I'm not.
But,
I believe you. But
well, no,
crazy.
but like there's even folklore and stories about, like, there's a story about.
I believe vampires are real.
Well, okay, but you heard about Merlin, right? The sorcerer. there was an old fable that Merlin was the product of like an incubus having sex with a human, but apparently there's theories about succubuses and incubuses actually having sex with a human and trying to because the human willingly does it, they take their semen, and it's like artificial insemination through demons. And it's just speculative, and it's not anything.
That's some Marilyn Manson shit right there.
Yeah, but it's crazy because when you think about the end times and people trying to like bring, the Antichrist into the world, it's like, and
he's already here, bro.
Yeah, and you look at the people like artificial insemination. There's Catholics. My wife has argued with Catholics at women's groups after Catholic church, and they're like, well, I don't think that in vitro fertilization is bad. And my wife's like, yeah, but they take the sperm of your husband and they take your eggs and they make 5 or 6 babies, and then you pick one. What happens to the other ones? Well, I don't want to talk about that. And they get all angry and they start raging.
Do you believe in that chimera? All that stuff is real? Those half-pig hybrids and all that stuff?
Dude, China's been doing all sorts
It's like a Bigfoot. Show me the photos, though.
Well, dude, there's no doubt in my mind that the Satanists
are trying.
Dude, they want to be. It says in the Bible, men
they'll try anything.
Men wanted to become like God. They wanted to become they're trying to extend their lives.
I believe that. And a lot of inventions and great inventions.
Come on. Alchemy. Okay, do you think someone like George Soros, who would pit the entire value of currencies and different economies against each other, which causes rises and falls just so he can increase his wealth at the expense of, like, think of all the people who like lost their life savings and then they committed suicide and their whole family fell into shit, and then their daughter became a prostitute, and then the wife ended up in hospice, and like the fallout of these wicked men. You don't think that they would kill a newborn baby and drink its blood because they think it might improve their health?
You believe
Dude,
Jesus?
Come on, man.
You mean Jesus walked on water, but you don't believe a cannibal could just go crazy and eat some people? It's been going on in every civilization for years.
Well, right. It's like the story of
cannibalism. It's modern cannibalism.
Well, it's like the story of Christopher Columbus. Like one of my coworkers, is total just brainwashed liberal. You ask him a question and he pulls up BuzzFeed on his phone. He's like, Christopher Columbus was a rapist, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you actually read the story of Christopher Columbus and you're like, he made friends with certain natives. And the first thing that those natives said was, he was like, what are all these scars from? And they're like, well, there's this other tribe. I think they were called the Caribs. And they're really good at making blankets. And they like to eat the children, newborn children of like captured natives. Like they were crazy, sick, twisted sociopaths. And then
I can't even fathom
and then a bunch of
growing up in a world like that.
Well, right. And to talk about how horrible climate change is, like Leonardo DiCaprio, and then be like, yeah, but the Oscars are tonight and my eyebrows, gosh, my eyebrow looks so weird. You know what? Fly that eyebrow model in. Let's burn a whole tank of high octane jet fuel and give her like $25,000 and have her come out and do my eyebrows. So when I go to the Oscars, I look.
Is that even real?
Yeah, I look a little bit more handsome.
Dude. Are you just giving an example?
Al Gore has it's an actual factual example.
Eyebrow.
Al Gore, Man Bear Pig. Has this is a good Trigrodamus right here. South Park sold out. Ooh, Trey Parker and Matt Stone sold out.
What happened?
They have an episode where it turns out that they made fun of Al Gore and they said Man Bear Pig is real, but now they have an episode where it turns out that Man Bear Pig is actually real. Like global warming is real. And then there's some conservative guy in a restaurant and he's like, I mean, even if it is real, why should I believe it? And then like all of a sudden Man Bear Pig comes up and rips his head off. It's like even South Park has sold out to the devil.
The propaganda.
Right, because they can't put Muhammad on the cartoon. They know that they can endlessly beat up Jesus Christ and use him as a punching bag, because who's really tolerant? Is the left tolerant? Or are the Christians tolerant? I've tolerated Piss Christ, where they put Jesus Christ in a jar of urine.
See, I don't believe in like global warming that's man-made, but I do believe that global catastrophe and global change is coming very soon.
Well, yeah.
And
of course,
but that's going to be confused with it's man's fault, especially white Christian man's fault, and we might be all just. It might be worse to be white.
Dude, I got news for you,
or worse
man.
to be half white.
It's if you want if you want an analogy to how to fix the pollution problem in the world, all you have to do is just observe. It was just like the scientific method. Look around. Everybody in the world was trying to figure out how to create an airplane. All the governments spent all this money. Even the most successful guy before the Wright brothers was this guy named Otto, and he was a German, and he complained and lamented about the German government and the bureaucrats and how they were hindering his ability to make further progress. And it took these two hicks who maybe had a little southern drawl, and you might think they're kind of stupid, but really they're not so stupid after all, and they don't pay high taxes, so they have some freedom. And then it turns out that they create a propeller that, according to modern computer models, is within 2% of the ideal perfect propeller pitch. So if you have to have a propeller on an airplane and you have to pick one position,
is that South Carolina?
No, I think North Carolina. They're
birthplace of flight.
Right. They're within. They got within.
Gangster, man.
They got within 2 freaking degrees of perfection. Right. I mean, now they have airplanes where the propellers can change pitch.
Right.
It's like one is better for takeoff.
CVT propeller.
Yeah, and then one is. It's kind of like gears on a car when you're going 60 on the freeway.
Well, you want the pitch to change versus your speed you're going.
Right. So in other words, it's more efficient, so that you need more. To get off the ground, you obviously need more torque.
At a certain speed, it actually starts to slow you down.
Right, and then you have to... Right, but there's an ideal pitch if you only get one.
Right.
They got within 2% of it, okay? So that's the free market. So if you want to solve global warming and you want to fix the environment, it's not going to be frickin' France or China. Well, it's really great. They got green energy. It's like, dude, the only thing that China's only claim to fame is they're really good at copying the West. They're really good at taking an iPhone and copying it.
Harsh,
it's true.
It's not totally true.
Well, okay. I mean,
maybe on a industrial scale level.
Well, the Chinese military, they just released news today. They're using Google to improve and enhance their military. In other words, the communist Chinese are benefiting from the fruits.
From white privilege?
No, yes. They're benefiting from the fruits of capitalism, but you're putting all of that technology in the hands of a communist regime, and communist regimes are murderous, and the Chinese killed millions of their own people like cockroaches. And it all gets back to the original point I made. If you value life and you love the planet, what's the best way to fix the planet and not have to kill everyone? It's not going to come through the Chinese. They pollute the earth worse than anyone. It's not going to come through Maduro or down in Venezuela. He can't even manage nationalized industry. It's not going to come from Cuba, where they're taking American cars from the 50s and they're rebuilding them. It's not. It's going to come from here. It's going to come from like Tesla. It's going to come from people who have the freedom to think and fix things. And we're finally at the point where we could do that, and it's inevitable because of the pride of men, because they think they're really smart and they think they're really special, and they think they're gods. They're gonna F it all up, and what happens when they F everything up? They look around and they go, oh my gosh, and then everyone starts to die, and they go, well, it's evolution, like that Korn song, it's evolution. It's sad because they don't get it, and they're destructive, and they think they're creating order out of chaos, but really, they're just like the devil. They're just good at creating chaos. The devil's great at destroying things. He's good at destroying marriages. He's good at destroying lives. He's good at destroying dreams, but he can't create shit. God is the one who creates. Every day God wakes up and he makes new flowers, and he makes new leaves, and he makes new creatures and new bugs and new fish. And it goes back to that thing I was saying about PetSmart. I'm a conservative. The guy I'm going to go work for, who's got the best fish store in my state, who has the healthiest fish that are alive, who do you think he voted for? He didn't vote for Hillary. He's got the healthiest fish around. He understands biology. I've recreated the Amazon River in my living room. And I can't even I can't tell you how many people I've met. I've even worked for college degree people who had college degrees in marine biology, and they'd come to me and ask me questions because they could pass a test better than I could, but they didn't have hands-on knowledge. I worked for this lady. She works at SeaWorld now, and people complain about SeaWorld, and I complain about SeaWorld because I've been to major aquariums.
I don't like those big giant mammals in captivity.
They don't know what, dude, but it's not even that you can't keep them in captivity.
They don't
even understand biology to the point of where the water is not good for the creatures. Then they go, oh God, what are we going to do? So they just drain all the water and they just bring new water in. And it's like, it's just funny because it's like, and then I go into my home and I've got like discus fish. It's like one of the hardest freshwater fish in the world to keep. And they're breeding constantly. They're making babies. They're laying eggs, and the eggs don't get fungus. And I'm breeding these fish that are supposed to be impossible to keep. And it's just like I've got their ecosystem dialed in to like the Wright brothers, you know. And then I turn on the TV, and everything's my fault, and I'm the problem, and because of the color of my skin. You know, and then I have all these people in my family who are all these different races, and I love all of them, and I love all of them equally, and you can just tell I just hope anyone who listens to this realizes, don't buy the hype about the division. Like, don't look at the black guy and be like, stupid black guy. Don't look at the white guy and be like, oh, he's probably a racist. Don't look at the Mexican guy and be like, freaking Mexican. Like, don't do that.
I do that comically.
Well,
it's hilarious, dude.
No, but I know what you mean. That's different because it's like you said, like I have friends of different races and we like to joke about that. It's hilarious. Like I work with a guy who's Jewish and we're constantly ribbing each other. Like the other day, okay, I go to get some bubbles. I work in a warehouse and I go to get some bubbles because there's big bubbles and there's little bubbles. And the big bubbles are better for packing certain items. But the machine runs out of the bubbles, and it's a pain in the ass to take the roll off and put a new one on. So I go over and I see it, and I go, oh, gosh, I don't want to deal with it. So I grab some small bubbles, and I go back to my desk. And then my Catholic guilt kicks in, and I'm like, that was wrong. I should have just done it. And then the Jewish guy I work with, and he's a secular Jew. He doesn't believe in religion anymore. He goes over there and starts doing it. And he, like, looks at me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Ben. And he's like, you think I didn't see what you did? You went over there, you saw that it needed to be replaced, and you just grabbed some small ones, and then you go back, and then I see what you're doing. And I'm like, now I have to go to confession. And he's like, yeah, you do. And I'm like, I don't know. It's almost like you're predisposed to virtue. And then he just burst out laughing. And he's like, why? Because I'm the chosen people? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so what's your deal? I'm like, why don't you go to synagogue? Why don't you go back to church? And so it's like we're ribbing each other, but we have genuine love for each other. We really like each other. And it's like, does that mean I'm an anti-Semite because I just told him he's the chosen people and he's predisposed to virtue? You know, like, is he a Christophobe because he cracked a joke about he noticed me being unvirtuous? And, you know, because it's like, well, if you're Christian, you believe in Jesus, why don't you do it? And it's like, he called me out on it. And I was like, you're right. Now I have to go to confession. But then I called him out on it. And I was like, well, you're predisposed to virtue because you're the chosen race. You know, you're the Jews. Like, why don't you go back to synagogue? And it was like, he just laughed about it. And then that was it. And it wasn't like, there's a lot of racial tension between the Jew and the Christian.
No, the truth is
so stupid.
The truth is, out there on the street, there's
Right.
nobody that's racist.
Right.
Of course, there's always a chainsaw massacre, some kind of guy around, and nowadays it just so happens to be an assault rifle. And you could say it's predominantly white if you want, but
It's
you know,
not. It's
are black people predominantly pimps? You know, is that just as kind of twisted? And it could be, you know, who knows? I mean, there's all kinds of other things people do that are predominantly in one way or another.
well, there's a difference between a cultural problem.
What race is
and a
predominantly
racial problem.
What race is predominantly involved in sex trafficking, human sex trafficking? What race is predominantly involved
Right.
in gun manufacturing?
Well, it's like you'll talk to liberals and they'll go, well, our history was slavery, and it's like, wait a second, do you even know about the history of slavery? Who started international slave trade? Do you not know what a pirate is? What race do you think those people were? It's like,
it was always first sex slaves. It was always that. We know that.
I mean, to my knowledge, the Muslims were a major part of the international slave trade, and then the West got involved. The white people And
no,
I'm
the queen would not be outdone, so she built all the plantations.
Well, right. In other words,
she was not outdone.
Some of the white countries
and weak white people, independent,
they just went along with it,
got involved and got some profit and got to run their farm.
Right, and they engaged in stupid tribalism.
There was always the rebels, the true rebels.
But see, here's the difference, and it's not a racial thing. The Muslims did international slave trade for hundreds and hundreds of years. They never stopped, and they didn't think it was wrong. And then the Europeans got involved. And then within a couple hundred years, they went from being fully involved in like creating plantations and setting up countries based on slave trade to condemning it and saying it was a moral evil, and then like making it a death penalty to engage in international slave trade. And that's what actually stopped it. So it's like to sit there and say, well, all those white people, it's really all their fault. It's like, wait a second. What about the Muslim people who captured all these black people? And like the Unsullied, we've talked about this before.
It's this conspiracy. It's the propaganda that they were stolen from Africa. They weren't sold from Africa.
Well, in some
cases were, of course.
Well, right, but some of them were
raiders,
captured by
pirates,
other.
The raiders, but
they enslaved white people, and then some of the black African kings in Africa who were engaging in tribal warfare captured other black tribes and sold those black people.
Well, and that's just
to
recent
white
history.
slave traders.
Go back further; it was Jewish slaves. I mean, go back further, and were those white people?
And the Jews also engaged in the slave trade.
People say the Jews were black. Who were those black Jesus Jews? The black Arabs or the black Hebrews?
It's the same thing.
What is that? Do you believe there's any truth a little bit to that at all?
I think that's ridiculous, stupid racism. I think that Jesus was a Jew. And that Jews.
What color was that? I think it was just like
somewhere between black and white.
Like those, like what do we call them?
The kind of color you get when you hang out in the desert for a couple hundred years.
Coffee. I think Jesus was Swiss coffee.
I think that Jesus was probably like you'd look at him and just when you thought he was like, a dark-skinned Jewish Middle Eastern guy, there was a part of him where you're like, wait, is he European? Wait. No, is he Arab? I can't tell because
yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Because Jesus, if he's
there an Asian Jesus out there? Is like
that's the weird thing about.
Is there an Asian Hebrews out there?
It's like God's doing an experiment on every race. That's the interesting thing. But that's the crazy thing about the races. There's only 3 races: Asians, Caucasians, and Africans. And Jesus was a Caucasian, and he came to be in the area of the world where there were different races of Caucasian people, but they didn't know that back then.
Are those the sons of Ham and Shem and all that?
I don't know. They it's just funny because I've met black Christians.
That sounds harsh, and that like Jesus came from your 1/3 of humanity. That's hard. That's like cold blooded. That's like a point scored for your team. That's like whoa.
Well,
dude,
but that's only racist? If you're racist. See, that's the thing. Right now, Pope Francis is biologically Caucasian. He's of Italian descent. If Cardinal Sura of Africa, he's a very dark man. If he became the Pope tomorrow,
what?
I would be jumping for joy.
I would too.
I would be so happy to have a black Pope named Cardinal. I think that's how I'm pronouncing it right. He's a traditionalist. He's a conservative. He doesn't believe in birth control. He doesn't believe in giving forced vaccinations to African people to sterilize them. He believes in Jesus Christ, and he is black as they come, and I love that man. So this idea that, well, you really don't love him because he's darker than you. It's like, no, dude, you got me mixed up with some crazy Westboro Baptist Church in the South. Like, no. Like, Catholic Christians, we are all over the world, and we are not racist, and we don't care about race or biology. We love Our Lady of Guadalupe. Like, we love humanity. We don't care about race. And I know black Christians, and I know Asian Christians, and they're all awesome, and they all have their own unique perspectives, and they're all enlightened by Jesus Christ, and none of them, I never look at them and go, yeah, I really like this Asian guy, but he's just so Asian. Look at his eyes. It's like that never occurs to me. But it actually, the people who are trying to tell you that you're a racist, it's because they're projecting what they actually think themselves. They're the racists. It's like Beto, Beto, I'm a Mexican guy. I'm with the people. It's like, no, you're not.
He's not that guy with the hands? Hands McGee?
Hands McGee.
Hands Malone.
Yeah.
That's his fucking name.
Seriously.
He's not Mexican.
Well, yeah. Ask the local Mexicans who had to deal with him trying to, take away all of their community from them, and through some sweet business deal with his wife's father and his real estate dealings. It's all a scam. It's all a scam. But the beautiful thing, if you believe in truth, is that all that is done in the dark will be revealed. Every single one of us is going to have to stand before Jesus Christ, and he's going to judge the living bejesus out of you. And boy, you better be ready for that, because he's either going to go, you know what? I love you and I forgive you for your sins, and now you're going to go to purgatory and you're going to work your way into heaven once you're purified. Or he's going to say, go away from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire that the Father has prepared for the devil and his angels.
That's terrifying, bro.
It is, and it should be terrifying. And you all should be terrified. Anyone who's listening, if you're looking at pornography, if you're masturbating, if you're doing drugs, if you made a child and you're not taking responsibility for that child, if you're screwing up, be prepared to pay the piper. And I'm not judging any of you. That's how I feel about myself. And I am declaring publicly, I am just as capable of falling into sin as any other dude. I am just as capable of falling off the wagon and going to hell as anyone else. And the devil is tempting all of us, and he's trying to screw with all of us, and he's not messing around. And so you can say, oh yeah, that's crap. That's just religious hocus pocus. Okay. Tell that to the people who run the world. They disagree. Even the ones who believe in Lucifer disagree. So, if that's a conspiracy theory, then why do the people who run the world take it so seriously? I mean, that's a I don't know. That's a good place to.
That's a good place to send it.
Yeah, send it.
All right, well,
send that.
Thanks for listening to the podcast or Bulletproof. There's been a splendid update.
God bless us, everyone.
Yeah, and
all races are equal. Don't let them divide us.
What's my final thought of the day? Is that 3/4 of the world's population lives on a coastline, which means that whatever conspiracy road you go down, God can decide at any time to change everything you ever thought was real in about 10 seconds. So, see you next time.